In this video, I'm going to go through the best practices around monthly billing and monthly statements. So there are several ways you can set up CampWorks for monthly billing. The most common is to bill the first of the month. There's also an option to bill on the anniversary date. Those options can be adjusted in the monthly billing section of CampWorks under Setup. And so, and here's anniversary date, same date each month. I have mine set to bill the first of the month, and then the payment due dates, and you can have it where the entire bill, if they're staying for 6 months, is all due at the time of check-in, or the most common is to set it to bill 1 month at a time. And then really the next section that matters, auto create statements. I'll discuss that later. We'll be turning that on and doing a demo of how that works in this video. And then the last thing that's probably important is the extra days set up and how CampWorks should handle those extra days. I like having it set up as prorating. That way you get the prorate option, but it will also ask you if you, in certain cases, you may want to charge the daily rate. And so it just gives you more options if you have prorate turned on. And as you can see, there are two different options on prorate. Have it do it based off of a fixed number of days, like 30 days, then you know the daily prorate is always the same amount. Or you can have it set to vary depending on how many days are in the month, in how it will divide up that monthly rate by either 28, 30, or 31 typically. Okay, so that's the basics of setup. These are the most common used things. You can set up your electric meter reading and etc. too, but we'll cover mainly this basic area first. Okay, so let's make a new reservation for a monthly, and I'll show you a couple different ways on this. I'm just going to pick one of my test ones. And so I'm going to first make this reservation for just a little over a month and a couple days. So they want to stay a couple extra days. I'll show you what the options are when we create that. So I find a site. Let's pick site 70, create reservation. And now when we save it, we will see the rates. So it has done just 1 month, because we've told it basically 1 month is from, and by the way, that's one thing I want to point out, 1 month in CampWorks is from the same date each month, meaning it's not 30, it's not 31 days. It is, if they're checking in on the first, their checkout is on the first, and so that's considered 1 month in CampWorks. And so again, if it's the 15th to the 15th, etc., that's 1 month. Regardless of whether it's 30 or 31 days, it will charge the monthly rate for that time frame. So let's just look at an option on this. Now in this particular one, they're just staying a couple extra days, and we probably don't want to have to do a monthly statement for them. We just want to charge it all up front. So we can check this box called Charge Entire Stay. If I check the Charge Entire Stay and then resave the reservation, CampWorks detects that there's been a change and asks if you want to recalculate the rates. We hit yes, and now we have this box that's popping up saying what reservation you're trying to do, just to clarify and make sure there's nothing confusing, because sometimes we have bill to reservation. So it's saying which reservation and who and on what site, and that it wants to know how to bill 6/1 to 6/2. Should those dates be billed as daily rate, as prorated, or do you want to bill the entire next month and just say no, they owe for 2 months, not just 1 month? So basically the first month is already taken care of because it's a full month. CampWorks just needs to know how to deal with those partial days. So in this case, let's say we're going to charge daily rate. So we click the daily rate, we look at our charges, then we can see we've got the $4.90 for the month, and we have 2 days at $35 at a daily rate. So that's a couple options that you can be aware of if you have this kind of situation where you don't want to have to create a statement for a guest that's staying just over a month. So that's how you would handle that situation. Then there's no need to create statements. Basically they pay up front. Everything is done with this particular reservation. Okay, now let's look at the situation like this guest is actually staying for several months. And so we're going to change their checkout date to be, let's say they're going to stay exactly 2 months. So now it's more of a normal reservation. We don't want to charge the entire stay up front. It's just a normal monthly. We made a change that affects the rates and we wanted it recalculated. So now we just have the first month's rate on here. So at the time you create the reservation, the first month is the rent is applied for the first month. And so now they would check in. So let's check this guest in, and let's actually collect the payment from them. Let's say it is 5/1 on my date. It's time to check in. They pay. We'll just do a cash payment to balance this out. Okay, and then we check them in just like we normally would with any reservation. And I'll just no receipt. Okay, so they're checked in, their balance is 0. Let's check out the monthly billing tab because there's a couple of extra things that we should consider with the monthly billing. First of all, if you do electric meter charges, now's the time to enter the new meter reading. So we should enter what we call an initial meter reading, and I'm just going to use an easy to remember number for our testing. So 11111 and hit save. Now we have that initial meter reading. At the end of the month, we will get the new reading, enter it in, and CampWorks will calculate what the total electric meter bill is. Other things that you may want to consider is, are there monthly charges that every month this customer will get either a charge or a discount? And these monthly charges and discounts can be set up in the software options screen. In there you can set up a new charge or a new discount, and you would select the apply to be monthly. And when you do that in setup, it will add it to this list. So these are lists of possible charges each monthly and discounts each monthly could have, but they're not applied to this reservation unless we check them. So let's say this one has a pet charge every month that should be added on. So by saving this, every month now CampWorks will add on that defined pet charge to their monthly statement. One thing to note is the first month, that because we haven't created statements yet, the first month doesn't have a charge on it. So we may want to go back here and manually add a pet charge, which hopefully we have one in here, pet charge. So we'll add that. Current date. So now we have a $15 pet charge that's been added in at the beginning of their reservation, and we should have done that before we did the payment, but essentially now they have the 5/1 pet charge that covers the first month. Now when we create the statement at the end of the month for the next month's rent, it will also automatically add in the next month's pet charge. So let's fast forward now. I'm going to fast forward to the middle of the month and show you another thing that may happen throughout your month. We have fast forwarded our time to the 17th of May, and let's say now we have a couple things happening. One thing is the reservation that we previously made on site 70. They want to have some charges added to their account, so let's put in, let's just do some ice. So we added some ice for the current date. Okay, so that's added to their bill, charged to their reservation. Now a second thing that's going to happen is there's a new guest coming in today. Let's create a reservation for that new guest. And we'll pick Carol. Okay, and she's coming in the 17th, and she's staying through the end of June, leaving July 1st. So let's find her a site, and let's put her on 71. Okay, I hit save. Now, because we have CampWorks set to bill, to do all of our statements on the first of the month, what CampWorks is asking right now is, okay, from the 17th until the 1st, how should I bill that? Do I want to bill it as a daily rate? Do you want to charge the entire month? Well, in this case, I'm assuming what most of you will want to do is you charge monthly, so you prorate. And so basically this will do a prorated charge from the 17th till the 1st, till the end of the month. and then when we do our next billing cycle, it will do an entire month for the next month from 6/1 to 7/1. So we would hit prorate, and now we have the prorated charge that goes to the 31st, or basically to the 1st, and then when we create our statement on the 1st, that will bill the next month's rent. So let's just take a payment from this guest. I'll just quickly do a cash, and okay, and now we'll check them in. Okay, so I've got them checked in. Now we'll fast forward again to the end of the month, and I'll show you the statements. Now we have fast forward in time to June 1st, and it is time to create a statement. And there's several ways you can do this. First, I'm going to go into the monthly billing tab and create a statement manually, so you see how that works. So let's go in and hit create statement, and this now creates our statement of account. You can see what had been billed on 5/17, and now we have the new rent charge from 6/1 to 7/1. Monthly $490 has been added in, and you can see that they had already paid that first prorated part, and so what is total current charges then have been added on, and so the total due is $490 for their next month's rent. If we go to the reservation, we can just double check that. So now we have that initial partial month that was prorated to begin with, which is still there, and now we have the new rent for 6/1 to 6/30 charged on their account. All right, let's now go look at the other one. This is the reservation where we have electric meter readings, we had some additional charges, we had a standard pet charge that we wanted to add. So I can save it with that. Okay, and then now let's look at the first thing we would need to do is add the meter reading. So let's go put the meter reading in for today, and now let's say the new reading is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it calculates their electric consumption is $15.99. All right, and then so now we're ready to create the statement for this guest. Create statement. So now we have the new rent, we have the meter reading for their electric bill. We also have the new automatic pet charge for the next month that's been added on, and we have the ice that was charged on 5/17 added onto their account. So then we get the total due of $539.80. And let's just go validate that all in the reservation. The balance due is $539.80. We have the new charges that were added, the pet charge, the ice that was put in here, and yeah, so it'll basically add those each month. So that is the manual way to create statements and generally how the process works. Now that you understand manually how to create statements, I'm going to show you some tools that can make this a lot easier and faster. So first, let's go under Maintenance and Monthly Statements. And so there's a selection list to look at monthly statements for various types. You can look at only your campsites, cabins, your different types, or your charge accounts if you use charge accounts. And then the other one that's useful is meter entry. Let's start with meter entry. So if we go to the meter entry selection, there's the 2 monthly reservations that I have entered in the system, and you can see with this format, it's like a spreadsheet format. We can, first of all, we can click on Print Worksheet, and that will create a worksheet that shows each of the rental spaces in order and what the last reading was and what the new reading is. So essentially you can print this out, walk around the park, write down all of the readings, come back and then enter them right down the list like like you're doing a spreadsheet, and just keep entering items. So I'm not going to do that, but basically that would be one way that you would do it to add the meter readings. Once you've entered them, you just hit save readings, and all of the individual reservations will have the meter readings updated with the current date. Alright, let's go back to all, and so let's look at this screen first. This is one of the more common ones you would look at, and by clicking on different cells you can access different things. If I click on the guest ID, I open the guest profile, so I can see the details about this guest. If I click on the rental space, it opens their reservation. Likewise, all of these middle ones, where if I open up the reservation number, again opens their reservation and opens it to the monthly billing tab because we're working on monthly billing. If I click on the last statement, so we can click on this right from this screen and view the last statement. So here's their last statement, see their balance. And then on this screen it also shows what the statement was at the last, or the balance at the last statement when the next statement is due. So this gives us a lot of information that we can click on in each of these. So now the next tool that I want to explain is how you can create all the statements at one time. So I just showed you how you could go into the meter entry and do all the meter entries all at one time. Well, you can create all of your statements at one time as well. So we can go into all, we can hit select all and select each of these, or select only the ones that we want, whichever we want, and then hit create statements, and it will create all of those statements. We can also do the same thing with printing those. If we want to print the statements separately, we can select the ones we want and hit print statements, and it will send them to the printer. So several different options that you have. And then the last thing, if you remember at the beginning when we were looking at the initial setup options, there was an option called auto create statements. And what auto create statements will do is, assuming you've already entered your meter readings on the due date of the statement, so shortly after midnight of that reservation when it is due to have a statement created, this screen essentially will open. All of these that are due will be checked, and it's like basically the same as pressing the create statement button, and it would create statements for all of those guests and automatically then charge rent and create their statements. And then you can come in the morning and print or email or do whatever you want to send those statements. To demonstrate the full process and essentially what the automated process would do, I've created 3 new reservations. These are all monthly reservations. They all have an initial meter reading, and so I'll go through the process with you on these 3. So notice the top 3 are, the last statement was 5/1, their next statement is 6/1. So I've set our date to 6/1, and we're going to go ahead like we're going to process these. So actually, let's set the date to be before the end of the statement period, like 5/31. I have my date set to just before the close of the statement period, so let's say it's the 30th or 31st. I have it set to 5/31 now. So the first thing you would do is do your meter readings. So you go get your meter entry sheets. So we basically are going to want to enter the new readings for these top 3 because we want to do the statements for these. We already did the other 2. So I put all these at 1,000. Let's go put in new meter readings. Let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 4, 3, 2. Okay, now we hit save readings. 3 meter readings have been saved. Now we can go create those statements. So so you could do that anytime. You could meet your readings always on the 29th or the 30th, let's say, Or if it's somebody's checkout date, of course, you would go read it right at that time and check them out. The meter readings just need to be done before the statements, so you can do it anytime up to the time you create the statement. So let's fast forward now to statement day. Now it's June 1st. We want to run these 3 statements, so we check the ones we want to run. Now if you have the auto statements turned on, it's going to just check every day and see are there any that are due, and at midnight basically, or right after midnight on the due date, it would automatically run them. So I hit create statements, and now it's asking, do you want to print or preview each of these? Yeah, and if you hit no, then essentially it will do it silently and just create them all, and then we can either manually view or print or email or whatever we want to do later. So I'm going to hit yes so we can watch each one of these so that we can see how it works. And then now it's asking, since I said yes, it's asking if we want to preview each one manually and print each statement, or do we want to basically send all of them to the printer. And so I want to hit yes. So now it'll come up and show me each one. So here's the first one. You can see that this one has added the new rent, and the new reading is on there for their electric billing. And this one had a washer charge that was automatically added. So that is good. We'll close it and it'll go on and do the next one. Here's the next one. This has got the next month's rent on it. It's got the new reading, and cable box rent is added on this one. And then we'll let it do the last one. And this last one had no additional charges on it. It just has the rent on it. So there you have it. And that's basically what the automated process would do, just in a silent mode. It would just go through and create each of those on the first of the month. Now note, I may have said this earlier, but I'll reiterate it. The very first statement you create, so this is the first month statement we've created. It shows the initial charge that was basically at check-in for the rent on 5/1, and then it shows the new rent for this month, but it also shows the payments that were made up to that point too. And so their payment is up top. So when we move on to the second, third, fourth, fifth, however many statements, then it will only be the transactions from that statement period. So the first one includes everything that's happened up to date, but then after that it's just anything that happens between statements. So in other words, you wouldn't see 2 rent charges, you should just see 1 rent charge each month, therefore going forward. Now when I go back to my monthly statements list, we can see now that all the statements are up to date. The last statement date is 6/1 now on everything, and the next statement due date is 7/1. So we've run all of our statements. We have our last balances after the statements were run, and everything is up to date. Now I'll show you a quick list also that you can use, and this is more important if you are billing on anniversary date, because you have to keep track of what is due and when. So this will tell you when the last statement date or the next statement date is and what's due, and CampWorks on startup will check to see, do you have any statements that are past due, and it will warn you if you have meter statements that are due that day, or monthly statements that are due that day, or meter readings that need to be read and statements to be created, and it will then bring up this list. So that's how CampWorks helps you manage when you're billing on anniversary date, especially where you need to keep track of who's due and when. It will automatically do that for you. And that pretty well wraps up the monthly billing training. Hopefully this makes it very clear to you, and we have a pretty extensive system to help enable billing, and we have many customers that are doing hundreds of monthly statements each month. So it's a good process for you to use, and we hope you enjoy it. Let us know if you have questions.